GEEK Files, 2026, March 15th, the Ides of March. Crappy day for Caesar. I guess spring of 88, White Horse Air Maintenance. The Buffalo Airways DC-3. So, because it was summer, Chris wanted to have someone work a later shift because there's a lot of transient traffic coming in and he wanted to cover that off. Which sounds weird, but whatever. So I was working 11 to 7 p.m. I'd still go for lunch at noon with Dave and Paul, which pissed him off. I'm going like, I'm not taking any more breaks than I normally do. I'm just having them, two of them with my colleagues. Anyway. So everyone's gone home. It's about 6 o'clock. And the pilot for the Smoke Jumpers DC-3, the Buffalo Airways DC-3, comes in and says, look, I need a shroud in my tail wheel. Can you install this? And I said, well, come show me. And walked out. He said, well, there's no holes drilled in the tail wheel strut to mount this. So you need to drill and tap holes. And I said, well, being a structural guy, I'm in a place where we're doing structural repairs and going well, Dave's has the endorsement on this thing. Let me call Dave. Let me tell him what I'm doing so that he's just not surprised by it. And then we'll get it done. So I call and I can't get a hold of Dave. I get, this is before cell phones, before GPS, before the internet. I get his answering machine and say, okay, this is what's going on. The Buffalo Airways DC-3 needs this shroud over its tail wheel to stop the static lines from smoke jumpers getting wrapped up in it. There's no holes in the strut. I'm going to need to drill and tap holes. So give me a call back. Let me know if you're happy with this, you're going to watch it or whatever, because you're signing this mod out. And then I walk out and I tell the pilot, okay, this is what's going on. When Dave gives me a call back and we sort this out, we'll get it done. Oh, no. It just needs to be drilled and tapped. And he just starts going on until I finally get pissed and say, look, when does your duty day start? And the pilot says, well, 6 a.m. I said, whatever happens, this will be on there at 6 o'clock in the morning for the start of your duty day. Now, Foxtrot Oscar and go get drunk. And he gets mad and storms off. So the next day, Dave calls back half an hour later and says, yeah, just do it. And I'll have a look in the morning, but I'm sure it'll be fine. So I install the shroud and button it up and come in the morning at 11 and talk to Dave. And Dave says, yeah, it was okay. Thanks for the call. And he's smiling. And Paul's looking at me smiling. So I get my toolbox out and start working. And Chris walks out smiling, going, what is going on? He says, you had words with the Buffalo Airways pilot. I said, yep. And then told him the story. And he smiled and said, I was Buffalo Joe, the owner. So I just told the infamous Buffalo Joe of Buffalo Airways to Foxtrot Oscar. And I went, look, you want to fire me over that, fine. But I'm just not going to do random, whoever it is, I'm not going to do random changes on aircraft that I can't sign out. It's just not going to happen. That's fine. So I'm working away, and about 1 o'clock, here comes Buffalo Joe into the hangar, and he's coming right for me. And he stops, and he says, you did what you said you're going to do. I said, yeah. I mean, like, it was reasonable. We were going to not stop you from flying. I'm not going to make changes. I can't sign out on an aircraft without the guy who's going to sign out on them knowing, exactly what's going on. I said, yeah. You held your ground. You did what you said you're going to do. You didn't stop me from flying. If you ever need a job, you call me. And he was serious. This is Buffalo Joe saying, if you need a job, you call me. After telling him to Foxtrot Oscar. And Paul and Dave are just looking at me stunned, like, holy crap, you got away with this. Yeah. But I'll put that up to Joe Hooker and my experiences on the Caribou at Otopica Lake. That, yeah, like, these old guys, they don't put up with a lot of guff, but they actually do know what's reasonable when you request it. Yeah. And years later, yeah, it turns out he was good to his word. We'll get to that story. So, yeah. Making appropriate life decisions. You don't make any money, but you get good stories.